On the morning of the fourth day, a single Imperial ship descended through Earth's atmosphere. It was smaller than the massive vessels orbiting Jupiter, but still the size of a football stadium. It landed in a field outside Geneva, Switzerland, a location chosen for its history of diplomatic meetings. World leaders watched from a safe distance as the ship's doors opened. Out walked 12 aliens led by a tall figure in ornate armor. This was Imperial Assessor Krell, sent to formally begin Earth's integration process. Dr. Mary Winters adjusted her scientific equipment. As Earth's top expert in biology, she had been chosen to study the aliens up close. Behind her protective mask, her eyes narrowed as she took readings. They're maintaining a bubble of purified air around themselves, she whispered to her assistant. And look at those suits, triple sealed against environmental exposure. Vice President William Carter stepped forward as Earth's representative. He was a tall man with gray hair and a calm voice that had helped him through many human crises. Now he faced something entirely different. "Welcome to Earth," he said, keeping his distance as advised by Dr. Winters. "I am Vice President Carter of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Nations." Assessor Krell did not bow or extend a hand. "I require your world surrender document signed within 3 of your Earth days. The Emperor is generous to allow self-governance under Imperial oversight." William kept his face neutral despite the shock. "Surely we can discuss terms that would benefit both our peoples. A partnership?" "Partnership?" Krell made the metallic, laughing sound. "Your civilization is barely at technology level 3. The Empire is at level 11. We do not partner with primitives. We manage them." As they spoke, Imperial devices floated from the ship, dispersing into the air around the landing site. Dr. Winters tracked them with her equipment. "They're taking samples," she said quietly into her communicator, which connected her to military leaders watching from secure locations: air, soil, plant life. "They're especially interested in our microbial environment." Assessor Krell gestured toward their ship. "A delegation of your leaders will come aboard to review the integration treaty." William hesitated. "We would prefer to meet on neutral ground." "Your preference is noted and irrelevant," said Krell. "Our environment is sterilized for your protection." After consulting with security experts, a small group including William and Dr. Winters entered the Imperial ship. They wore subtle monitoring devices hidden in their clothing. Inside, they found an environment of cold metal and strange flowing light. The air smelled of chemicals. Imperial guards stood at attention, their black eyes watching every human movement. Krell led them to a conference room where a hologram displayed a document in multiple Earth languages. "The submission treaty," Krell announced. "Your world will provide resources according to Imperial quotas. Your population will be registered and assigned appropriate labor tasks." William read through the terms with growing horror. Earth would effectively become a mining colony. Humans would be classified as managed sentients with fewer rights than full Imperial citizens. "This is slavery," William said, keeping his voice steady. Krell tilted his metallic head. "It is efficient resource management. Many worlds find prosperity under Imperial rule." While the diplomatic meeting continued, Samuel Webb, a security officer, posing as an aide, carefully observed the ship's layout. When an Imperial guard stepped away from a console, Sam moved quickly. He placed a near-microscopic device on the alien computer terminal. Back in a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, tech specialist Nancy Green received a signal. "We're in," she said to the military commanders gathered around her. "Accessing their database now." What they found shocked everyone. The Empire had integrated dozens of worlds before Earth. Images showed planets stripped of resources, indigenous populations relocated to work camps, entire civilizations reduced to serving Imperial needs. During the tour of the ship, Dr. Winters noticed something important. The aliens moved awkwardly in their sealed suits. They constantly checked environmental readings. One guard became visibly distressed when a small tear appeared in his outer glove, and he was immediately removed from duty. "They truly fear our environment," she told her team later that day. "Their biology must be fundamentally different from ours." They come from a world with fewer microbes, perhaps, or different ones. Vice President Carter reported to world leaders that night. They expect us to simply surrender. Their treaty gives us no rights, only obligations. And based on the information Officer Webb obtained, resistance has been futile for other worlds. President Russell looked around the secure meeting room at the faces of leaders from China, Russia, the European Union, and a dozen other major nations. But those worlds weren't Earth, she said, and those beings weren't human. Dr. Winters presented her findings. The Imperial biology is vulnerable to Earth's natural environment. Their extreme sterilization protocols prove it. Even brief exposure to our air causes them distress. They underestimate us because our technology is less advanced, but our biological diversity might be our greatest weapon. The information Sam had stolen revealed more. The Empire had never encountered serious resistance. Their usual method was to arrive, demand surrender, and begin resource extraction. Any military response was crushed by their superior technology. But they had never faced a species that turned their own biological weaknesses against them. No, the morning of the 5th day, Assessor Krell demanded an answer. Your time for peaceful submission ends tomorrow. After that, we implement forced integration protocols. William asked for details about these protocols. The answer was chilling. Major population centers will be contained, said Krell. Resistance leaders removed. Resource-rich regions secured. It is less efficient than voluntary compliance, but entirely effective. As the human delegation left the Imperial ship, Dr. Winters secretly released a specially designed sensor into the alien environment. It would monitor how the aliens responded to very specific Earth microbes introduced in tiny, harmless amounts. The results came within hours. Their immune systems go into complete panic mode even with minimal exposure, she told President Russell. And they're especially vulnerable to certain common soil bacteria that are completely harmless to humans. Around the world, military leaders developed a plan, not for direct confrontation, that would be suicide, but for something the Empire would never expect. Admiral Lisa Grant directed the space defense strategy from Lunar Command. Position our satellites in this formation, she ordered. Make it look random, disorganized. I want them to underestimate us until it's too late. On Earth, Sam worked with international hackers to analyze the Imperial communication codes. They've never needed to secure their systems against outside interference, he explained. They've always been the most advanced civilization. That makes them vulnerable. Nancy discovered a crucial weakness. Their ships communicate on quantum frequencies, but they use predictable patterns. If we can disrupt those patterns, Dr. Winters worked through the night with her team, developing what she called Operation Earth Defense. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was Earth itself, its unique biological environment, turned into something the aliens couldn't handle. As the deadline approached, President Russell addressed a private meeting of world leaders. Tomorrow we give them our answer. Not just America's answer, but humanity's answer. They expect us to surrender because that's what everyone does when faced with their technology. But they don't understand what humans do when backed into a corner. The leaders nodded in grim agreement. Throughout history, humans had fought against overwhelming odds, against stronger enemies, against terrible weapons, and sometimes against all expectations. They had won. That night, as Imperial ships moved into position above major cities, Earth made its final preparations. Not with missiles or bombs that would be useless against Imperial shields, but with something the Empire had never faced before, a planet that refused to be conquered, a species that would fight with everything it had, and a plan that turned the invaders' own assumptions against them. Dawn broke on the 6th day, the day humanity would give the Galactic Empire its answer. Admiral Lisa Grant stood at the view screen of the lunar monitoring station. Her dark blue uniform fit perfectly against her tall frame. Her job was to watch for threats to Earth. After 20 years in space defense, she thought she had seen everything. She was wrong. "Admiral, we have strange energy readings near Jupiter," said Officer Paul Jones. His voice shook slightly. Lisa walked to his station. The readings were like nothing in their database. "How long has this been happening?" "Just started 2 minutes ago, ma'am." Lisa pressed the station-wide alert button. "All personnel to stations. This is not a drill." The energy near Jupiter grew stronger. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Through this tier came ships. Not 1 or 2 ships, but hundreds. Then thousands. They were massive, gleaming with strange lights and metals not found on Earth. "Send word to Earth Defense Command now," Lisa ordered. "First contact scenario. Threat level unknown but high." The main screen flickered. A face appeared that wasn't human. It had metallic skin that reflected light like polished silver. Its eyes were large and completely black. "Greetings from the Galactic Empire," it said in perfect English. "Your primitive world has been selected for integration. Congratulations." The same message played in Russian, Chinese, Hindi, Spanish, and a dozen other Earth languages. Lisa kept her face calm, even as her heart raced. "This is Admiral Lisa Grant of Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations. Please state your intentions clearly." The alien smiled in a way that didn't reach its eyes. "I am Ambassador Zex Taral of the Imperial Expansion Fleet. My intentions are exactly as stated. Your world will be integrated into our empire. The process begins now." On Earth, Commander John Miller was in the middle of a meeting at United Nations headquarters when all screens showed the alien face. As Earth's top diplomat for possible alien contact, he had trained for this day. But not like this. Not with aliens already at Jupiter. "Ambassador Zex Taral," John said, standing before the UN's emergency broadcast system. "Earth is home to 8 billion humans with diverse cultures and governments. We request time to discuss your offer with our leaders." The alien made a sound like metal scraping metal. It took John a moment to realize it was laughter. "This is not an offer, human. Integration is mandatory. Imperial ships will arrive in your atmosphere in 3 of your Earth days. Prepare your leaders for our arrival." The screens went dark. President Kate Russell was woken by Secret Service agents at 3 a.m. Within an hour, she sat in the White House Situation Room with her top advisors. "What do we know about their technology?" she asked. Defense Secretary Joe Freeman shook his head. "Their ships appeared through what looks like an artificial wormhole. That alone puts them centuries ahead of us. Our weapons might as well be sticks and stones." "I refuse to accept that," said President Russell. "Get me Admiral Grant from Lunar Command." Lisa's face appeared on screen. "Madam President, we've been scanning their fleet. They have technology we can't even understand, but we found something interesting. Their communication systems have unusual patterns. It's like they've never worried about anyone breaking their codes." "Can we use that?" Lisa nodded. "Maybe. We're working on it, and there's something else. Their ships have powerful shields, but they keep cycling down specific sections for just a few seconds at a time. Almost like they need to vent something for..." The first time, President Russell felt a small spark of hope. "Keep working on it. I'm calling an emergency UN session." While world leaders gathered, normal people everywhere watched the skies with fear. News channels showed nothing but the alien ships. Some people panicked, others prayed. Many just hugged their loved ones, wondering if these were Earth's final days. In his lab at MIT, Dr. Rick Evans studied the alien broadcast. "Their translation is too perfect," he told his assistant. "They've been watching us for a long time to learn our languages so well." The assistant looked up from her computer. "Dr. Evans, I found something in the background of their transmission. Those symbols scrolling behind the ambassador, I ran them through our pattern recognition software. They look like biological markers." "What kind of biological markers?" "If I'm reading this right, they're scanning us, all of us, through our screens." Dr. Evans grabbed the phone. "Get me the Pentagon, now." In orbit around the moon, Lisa received this news with growing anger. The aliens weren't just announcing their arrival. They were already invading Earth's privacy, scanning humans through their own devices. Run a full analysis of their ship exteriors, she ordered. If they can scan us, we can scan them. The results came back within hours. The Imperial ships had what looked like cooling vents that opened briefly at regular intervals. Their technology runs hot, said Lisa's chief engineer. Maybe hotter than they can easily handle. Lisa smiled for the first time since the aliens appeared. Every advanced technology has a weakness. Find me more. On the second day, smaller alien ships moved closer to Earth. They stayed in high orbit, but sensors showed they were releasing small probes into the atmosphere. Commander John Miller tried again to establish communications. Ambassador Zex Toril, these atmospheric probes violate Earth's sovereignty. Please recall them immediately. The ambassador's face appeared again on screens worldwide. These are standard testing devices. We must ensure your world is suitable for our needs. And what exactly are your needs? John asked. Your planet has abundant resources: water, minerals, biological diversity, and a population that can be easily managed. The words sent chills through everyone who heard them. Humans weren't being seen as equal partners. They were being inventoried like resources. President Russell met with her military commanders. Options? General Steve Rogers spread his hands. Direct confrontation is suicide. But we've found interesting data from the probes they sent down. They sterilize everything they touch. It's like they're afraid of Earth's natural environment. This matched what Lisa had discovered from Lunar Command. The Imperial ships were advanced, but they showed signs of environmental vulnerabilities. They vented heat. They sterilized everything. They kept their distance from Earth's upper atmosphere. They're afraid of something here, Lisa told the president, during an encrypted call. Maybe our germs, maybe our air. Something about Earth makes them cautious. Can we use that? Lisa nodded grimly. Earth has one advantage they don't expect. We've spent our entire history fighting each other. We know how weaker forces can defeat stronger ones. We know about guerrilla warfare, about using the environment as a weapon. As the third day dawned, Earth's leaders made their decision. They wouldn't simply surrender to the Empire. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had judged Earth by its technology alone. They hadn't accounted for human determination, for human creativity, for the fact that humans had spent thousands of years fighting against overwhelming odds. As Imperial ships moved closer to Earth, Lisa gave orders to her lunar forces. Earth's governments activated secret defense systems, and scientists worked frantically to turn Earth itself into a weapon against the invaders. The Empire thought they were coming to claim an easy prize. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The United Nations General Assembly was filled to capacity. Leaders from every nation on Earth had gathered for what might be humanity's most important moment. The air was thick with tension as President Karen Howard took the stage. She was not a tall woman, but she stood straight and proud as the cameras broadcast her image to every corner of the world. She knew Imperial censors would be watching too. People of Earth, she began, her voice clear and strong. Throughout our history, humans have faced overwhelming odds. Today we face them again, not as separate nations, but as one planet. The room erupted in applause. For once old enemies stood together, united against a common threat greater than any human conflict. The Galactic Empire has demanded our surrender. They expect us to bow down because their ships are bigger and their weapons are stronger. President Howard paused, looking directly into the cameras. They are about to learn a lesson about humanity. In secret bunkers around the world, military leaders activated what they called the Earth First Defense Protocol. This wasn't a traditional military plan. It was something far more cunning. Officer Samuel Webb sat at his computer terminal in a secure facility beneath London. Around him, the best hackers from a dozen countries worked frantically. Their job was to break into the Imperial communication systems. Their encryption is complex, Sam said, but it follows patterns. They've never needed to defend against someone hacking them before. A young woman named Lily Chen nodded. They're overconfident. Look at how their authentication protocols repeat every 17 seconds. Sam smiled. That's our way in. As the hackers worked, Dr. Mary Winters supervised her team in a laboratory hidden in the mountains of New Zealand. They had isolated specific strains of bacteria and fungi from Earth's rich biological environment. These microorganisms are completely harmless to humans, she explained to the scientists around her. Our bodies deal with them every day, but to the Imperial visitors, they're overwhelming. Their immune systems have never encountered Earth's biodiversity. A young scientist raised his hand. But how do we deploy this against their ships? Their shields will stop any delivery system. Mary smiled. They've been sampling our atmosphere for days, collecting data. We'll let them collect exactly what we want them to have. In space, Admiral Lisa Grant watched as Earth's defense satellites moved into seemingly random positions. To Imperial sensors, it would look like a panicked, disorganized response. In reality, it was a carefully coordinated plan. Lunar base to all units, she said into her secure communicator. Execute Phase 1. Across Earth, special devices activated. They were simple technology by Imperial standards, nothing that would trigger their advanced sensors. But these devices began releasing specific electromagnetic pulses on frequencies the humans had discovered from analyzing Imperial communications. In Switzerland, Vice President William Carter prepared to meet with Assessor Krell for what the aliens thought would be Earth's surrender. In his pocket was a small device designed by the International Science Team. It looked like an ordinary pen. Remember, said his security advisor, stay at least 5 feet away from them at all times. We don't know how their systems might react to you. William nodded. I remember the plan. The Imperial ship landed once again in the same field outside Geneva. This time, large screens had been set up around the world so everyone could watch. President Howard had insisted on transparency. She wanted every human to see what was about to happen. Assessor Krell emerged from the ship, flanked by guards. The metallic alien looked confident, almost bored, clearly expecting a simple surrender ceremony. Vice President Carter, Krell said, in that strange metallic voice. I trust you have brought the signed treaty as required. William nodded politely. I've brought our response to your terms. President Howard has asked me to deliver it personally. Krell gestured impatiently. Present it then. The Emperor's patience grows thin. Of course, said William. He pressed a button on his phone. I believe President Howard would like to deliver our answer herself. The screens around the world suddenly showed President Howard's face. What the Empire didn't know was that Earth had discovered how to piggyback on their communication frequencies. The President's message was being broadcast not just to Earth but to every Imperial ship in the solar system. Assessor Krell, she said firmly. The people of Earth have considered your offer of integration into the Galactic Empire. We have a one-word answer. No. Krell's black eyes widened. This is not a negotiation. Surrender is mandatory. President Howard continued as if he hadn't spoken. Furthermore, we have carefully studied your empire's actions on other worlds. We have seen how you strip resources, enslave populations, and destroy cultures. Earth will not suffer this fate. Your primitive defenses cannot stop us, Krell said, anger creeping into his voice. Forced integration will commence immediately. That was the signal Sam and his team had been waiting for. The moment Krell gave the order, they activated their cyber attack. They had spent days analyzing Imperial communications, finding the patterns, discovering the weaknesses. In orbit, Imperial ships suddenly found their communication systems flooded with conflicting orders. Their carefully coordinated invasion plan fell into chaos as ships received contradictory commands. Admiral Grant watched from Lunar Command as the Imperial formation broke apart. They're confused, she said to her officers. Now for Phase 2. Earth's supposedly primitive satellites suddenly activated powerful electromagnetic pulses aimed at specific points on the Imperial ships, the cooling vents that had to open regularly to prevent overheating. At the same time, Dr. Winters activated her biological countermeasure. Special drones released clouds of engineered microbes into the upper atmosphere, exactly where the Imperial ships had been collecting samples. The Imperial ships automatically gathered these samples, as they had been doing for days. But these weren't random microbes. They were specifically chosen to overwhelm the aliens' biological filters. On the ground, Krell received urgent messages from the fleet. William could see the aliens' confusion turning to anger. "What have you done?" Krell demanded. William smiled calmly. "We've defended our home. Something your empire should have expected." In orbit, Imperial landing craft began their descent toward major cities. But Earth was ready. The hackers had compromised their navigation systems. Some ships flew in circles. Others found themselves heading away from population centers toward empty deserts or oceans. The few that managed to land faced another surprise. The air itself seemed to attack them. Their environmental suits, designed to filter out common contaminants, were overwhelmed by Dr. Winters' specially chosen microbes. Imperial soldiers stumbled from their ships, disoriented and struggling to breathe in their compromised suits. President Howard watched the reports coming in from around the world. No Imperial landing force was making progress. Their coordinated invasion had turned into a disorganized mess. "It's working," she told her advisors. Phase 3. Admiral Grant's space forces made their move. Earth's few military spacecraft were primitive compared to Imperial ships, but they didn't need advanced weapons. They simply needed to deliver special EMP devices to specific points on the Imperial vessels, points that Sam's team had identified from the stolen data. These precisely targeted pulses disrupted the shields just as the cooling vents opened. In those brief moments of vulnerability, Earth's defenses could affect the massive ships. On his flagship, Ambassador Zexatoril received increasingly desperate reports. "Impossible," he said as communication systems failed across the fleet. "They are primitives, level 3 technology at most." His second-in-command looked up from a monitor. "Sir, biological contaminants have breached our filtration systems. Crew, members are showing signs of acute immune response." Zextoril's metallic face showed genuine shock for the first time. How could they know our biological vulnerabilities? The answer was simple. Earth had turned the Empire's own arrogance against them. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they never considered humans might analyze their weaknesses. In Switzerland, Krell received the order to retreat from Zextoril himself. The assessment mission had failed. Earth's resistance was unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. As Krell turned to leave, William called after him. "Tell your Emperor something from us. Earth is not for sale, not for conquest, and not for integration." Across the planet, humans watched as Imperial ships broke off their attack and began to withdraw. In homes and public squares, people cheered and embraced, scarcely believing what they were seeing. But Admiral Grant remained vigilant. "They'll regroup," she warned President Howard. "They'll come back with a better plan now that they know we can fight." President Howard nodded. "That's why we're not stopping here. Begin final phase." As the Imperial fleet retreated toward Jupiter, they didn't realize that Earth had one more surprise waiting. Their ships carried more than just Earth's microbes. They carried tiny quantum trackers, undetectable by Imperial sensors, embedded during the brief shield failures. The Empire thought they were retreating to safety. In reality, they were taking Earth's first line of defense with them. 3 days after Earth's surprising defense, the Imperial ships regrouped near Jupiter. Their initial confusion had turned to rage. No world had ever resisted integration so effectively. The Empire's reputation was at stake. Ambassador Zexatoril called an emergency meeting on his flagship. "The standard protocols have failed," he told his commanders. "These humans have used our own systems against us. Implement the subdued world protocol." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant watched through advanced telescopes as the Imperial fleet rearranged itself into a new formation. "They're coming back," she informed President Howard during an emergency call. "And they look serious this time." President Howard sat in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, military leaders from every major nation waited for her decision. "How long do we have?" "Their ships are moving slower than before," Lisa said. "They're being more cautious, maybe 12 hours before they reach Earth orbit." The president nodded grimly. "Activate all defenses. This time they won't hold back." Vice President William Carter coordinated with world governments to implement evacuation plans for major cities. We can't save everyone, he told his staff, the weight of this truth heavy in his voice. But we can get millions to underground shelters. As people streamed out of cities across the globe, Dr. Mary Winters and her team worked frantically in their hidden laboratory. The biological countermeasure worked once, she told her scientists, but they'll have adapted their filtration systems. We need something new. Samuel Webb had barely slept in 3 days. His eyes were red as he stared at his computer screen, analyzing the data they'd collected during the first attack. Their communication systems have changed frequencies, he told his team of international hackers. But they still follow patterns. There's always a pattern. 12 hours passed too quickly. The Imperial fleet appeared in Earth's orbit, their massive ships blocking out the stars. This time they didn't bother with diplomacy. Energy weapons powered up, targeting major military installations first. But Earth wasn't defenseless. Admiral Grant had positioned their satellites differently this time, hiding them behind space debris and in the shadow of the moon. As the Imperial ships moved into firing position, these satellites activated powerful electromagnetic pulses. On the Imperial flagship, Zex Taral felt the ship shudder. What was that? He demanded. Electromagnetic interference, his science officer replied. But our shields should block. Another shudder interrupted him. Sir, the pulses are precisely timed to hit when our cooling vents open. They've studied our systems closely. Zex Taral slammed his metallic fist against his command chair. Launch the landing craft now. Overwhelm them with numbers. Thousands of smaller Imperial ships detached from the main fleet and descended toward Earth. Unlike the first attack, they targeted military bases and government centers rather than population centers. In his underground bunker in Colorado, Vices, President Carter coordinated the ground defense. They've learned from their mistakes, he told his commanders. They're going after our leadership and defensive capabilities first. But humanity had prepared for this. The real command centers had been moved to unmarked locations. What looked like military bases on Imperial scans were elaborate decoys. As the landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere, they encountered Dr. Winters' new defense. Instead of relying solely on microbes, she had developed a compound that reacted with the Imperial ship's hull material. It wasn't corrosive enough to destroy the ships, but it interfered with their sensors and navigation systems. Imperial pilots found themselves flying blind as they descended. Some crashed into mountains or oceans. Others landed miles from their intended targets, discharging confused troops into empty fields or dense forests. The Imperial soldiers who did manage to land discovered that Earth had another surprise waiting. The humans had studied how the aliens moved, how their weapons worked, and how their environmental suits functioned. Now they used this knowledge against them. In a field outside what had once been a military base in Germany, Imperial troops marched in formation toward what their sensors indicated was an underground command center. They moved awkwardly in their sealed environmental suits, still struggling with Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Hidden in the trees around the field, Earth's special forces waited. They didn't use traditional weapons. Those would be useless against Imperial armor. Instead, they deployed devices that emitted specific frequencies that disrupted the aliens' communication systems. Cut off from their commanders and each other, the Imperial troops faltered. Their training relied on constant connection to the fleet. Without it, they were lost. In Paris, another Imperial landing force found itself surrounded not by military resistance but by a strange fog. Their sensors showed it was harmless, just water vapor. But Dr. Winters had infused this fog with compounds specifically designed to penetrate the microscopic pores in the aliens' environmental suits. Within minutes, the Imperial soldiers began to stumble. Their immune systems, completely unprepared for Earth's microbiome, went into shock. They retreated to their ships, but it was too late. The contamination had already taken hold. In orbit, Admiral Grant launched Earth's counterattack. Their few military spacecraft weren't trying to destroy the Imperial ships. That would be impossible. Instead, they targeted the quantum communication arrays that Sam's team had identified as critical vulnerabilities. Sir, we're losing contact with ground forces across the planet, an Imperial commander reported to Zex Taral. And our long-range communications with the fleet near Jupiter are failing. The ambassador's metallic face showed no emotion, but his voice carried tightly controlled rage. How is this possible? They are primitives. On his flagship's main screen, a message appeared. It was President Howard. Ambassador Zexitoral, she said calmly. Your invasion has failed, again. You underestimated Earth and humanity. A common mistake among those who measure advancement only by technology. Zexitoral's black eyes narrowed. This is merely a setback. The Empire has resources beyond your comprehension. We will return with a fleet 10 times this size. President Howard nodded as if she had expected this response. You could do that, but before you make that decision, you should know something. Every ship in your fleet has been tagged with quantum trackers of our design. We know exactly where you are at all times. For the first time, uncertainty crossed the ambassador's metallic features. Impossible. Our sensors would detect such devices. Your sensors look for technology you understand, President Howard replied. We've learned to think differently, to use your own arrogance against you. In orbit, Imperial ships began reporting strange occurrences, system failures, unexplained power fluctuations, biological contamination spreading through supposedly sealed environments. Zexitoral received increasingly desperate messages from his fleet commanders. Whatever the humans had done, it was affecting ships that had never even landed on Earth. We have one more demonstration prepared, President Howard continued, to help you make the right decision. At that moment, Admiral Grant activated Earth's final defense system. Hidden platforms on the far side of the moon released specially designed missiles. They didn't carry explosives. Those would be useless against Imperial shields. Instead, they carried EMP devices precisely calibrated to the frequency of Imperial power systems. As the missiles approached, Imperial defense systems easily detected them, but they were programmed to prioritize threats based on explosive power. These missiles registered as harmless and were ignored until they detonated just outside the shields of Zextoral's flagship. The electromagnetic pulse passed right through the shields, designed to stop physical objects and energy weapons. Not this specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation. It hit the ship's power systems exactly as Sam's team had planned. On the flagship, lights flickered and control systems went offline. Emergency backup systems activated immediately, but for a few crucial seconds, the mighty Imperial vessel was vulnerable. What have you done? Zexitoral demanded, real fear in his voice for the first time. On Earth, President Howard stood tall. We've shown you that technology isn't everything, Ambassador. Creativity, determination, and the will to survive count for more. Your empire has never faced an opponent like humanity before. As Imperial systems came back online, the aliens made a disturbing discovery. The humans had used those few seconds, a vulnerability to upload something into their central database. Information began spreading through Imperial networks, impossible to contain. It was evidence of everything the Empire had done to other worlds. The brutal subjugations, the environmental destruction, the enslavement of populations, and alongside it, data showing exactly how Earth had defeated the supposedly invincible Imperial forces, twice. This information spread to every ship in the fleet, visible to every Imperial citizen on board. For an empire that maintained control, partly through carefully managed information, it was devastating. Zexitoral stared at the screens in horror as his crew saw the truth about their empire for the first time. Some looked shocked, others angry. A few seemed ashamed. You've lost more than a battle today, President Howard told him. You've lost the myth of your invincibility. And that, Ambassador, is something no fleet can win back. 1 month after the Imperial retreat, Earth was still on high alert. Orbital defense systems had been strengthened. Dr. Mary Winters had developed even more effective biological countermeasures. Samuel Webb and his team had created better cyber defenses. No one believed the Empire would simply accept defeat. Admiral Lisa Grant monitored the quantum trackers they had placed on the Imperial ships. They've returned to what appears to be a major base at the edge of our solar system, she told President Howard during their daily briefing. They haven't left, but they haven't approached Earth again either. President Howard nodded, studying the star map on the screen before her. They're waiting for something. Orders from their emperor, perhaps. The answer came 3 days later. A single Imperial ship, smaller than the massive vessels from the invasion fleet, appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. It broadcast a message on all frequencies. This is Ambassador Zex Toril of the Galactic Empire. I request a peaceful meeting with Earth's leaders to discuss the current situation. World leaders debated whether to accept the meeting. Some thought it was a trick. Others saw an opportunity to establish better terms with the Empire. We should hear what they have to say, Vice President William Carter argued. If nothing else, it gives us more time to prepare our defenses. President Howard agreed. Set the meeting at the lunar base. We'll maintain our strongest position and keep them away from Earth itself. 2 days later, a small Earth delegation arrived at the Lunar Command Center. President Howard led the group, which included Vice President Carter, Admiral Grant, Dr. Winters, and Officer Webb. Each represented a key element of Earth's successful defense. The Imperial ship docked at the lunar port. Ambassador Zex Toril emerged with just 2 aides, far fewer than anyone expected. Inside the conference room, with Earth hanging beautifully in the black sky outside the windows, the 2 sides faced each other across a table. The contrast was striking. The humans in their simple uniforms and business clothes, the aliens in their elaborate metallic armor and environmental suits. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Zex Toril began, his metallic voice surprisingly subdued. The Empire wishes to resolve our team conflict. President Howard nodded politely. We're listening. The Emperor has reviewed the situation and offers these terms, the ambassador continued. Earth will remain independent, but will grant the Empire limited mining rights in your asteroid belt. In return, we will provide technological advancements that would benefit your civilization. The humans exchanged glances. It was far better than the original demand for complete subjugation, but still not equal treatment. And if we refuse? President Howard asked calmly. Zex Toril's black eyes fixed on her. The Emperor would be displeased. A larger fleet could be dispatched, one better prepared for Earth's unique defenses. Admiral Grant leaned forward. You mean a fleet that knows we can track their ships, disrupt their communications, and target their biological vulnerabilities? That kind of prepared? For the first time, the alien showed signs of discomfort. The Empire has vast resources, which would be wasted in a conflict with Earth. Dr. Winters interrupted. Ambassador, we've analyzed samples from your environmental suits. Your species is fundamentally incompatible with Earth's biosphere. Long-term exposure would be fatal to your people, regardless of your technology. Sam nodded. And we've mapped your entire communication network architecture. Any new fleet would be vulnerable to the same cyber attacks that disabled your ships last time. The ambassador's metallic face couldn't show emotion, but his voice carried a note of surprise. You are more resourceful than we anticipated. President Howard stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Earth. Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not here to negotiate terms. We're here to deliver a message to your Emperor. She turned to face Zex Toril. The Galactic Empire is hereby banned from approaching Earth or any Earth colony. You are not welcome here. The ambassador made that strange metallic sound that passed for laughter. Banned? A level 3 civilization cannot ban the Galactic Empire from anywhere. Dr. Winters stepped forward, placing a data device on the table. This contains a complete analysis of your biology and your vulnerabilities to Earth's environment. We can make our atmosphere and surroundings even more hostile to your species if necessary. Sam added his own device to the table. And this demonstrates our complete access to your communication systems. We can send this information to every world in the Empire, showing how a primitive civilization defeated your fleets. Admiral Grant's contribution was a holographic display showing the exact location of every Imperial ship they had tagged. We know where you are, all of you, at all times. The ambassador stared at the evidence before him. His confidence visibly faltered. Furthermore, President Howard continued, we've detected communications from other civilizations in nearby star systems. It seems we're not the only ones who resist Imperial integration. Just the first to succeed so publicly. This was the most shocking news to Zexitoral. You've made contact with other worlds? Vice President Carter smiled. Let's just say some of them reached out to us after news spread about how we defended ourselves. They were quite impressed. It was a strategic exaggeration. Earth had indeed detected signals from other civilizations, but full communication was still being established. However, the ambassador didn't need to know that. President Howard returned to her seat. So, Ambassador, our terms are simple. The Galactic Empire will never again enter Earth's solar system without explicit permission. You will not interfere with our development or our future expansion to other planets. You will recognize Earth as a sovereign and equal civilization. And if the Emperor refuses? Zexitoral asked, though his voice lacked conviction. Then we will share everything we know about the Empire's weaknesses with every world under Imperial control, she replied calmly. How many rebellions do you think that would spark? How many resources would the Empire waste trying to maintain control? The conference room fell silent. The ambassador's aides whispered urgently to him in their own language. Finally, he spoke. We'll convey your terms to the Emperor. President Howard nodded. We expect your response within 1 Earth month. Until then, the current situation remains. Your fleet stays where it is and we maintain our defenses. As the meeting ended, Zexitoral paused at the door. You were never supposed to resist, he said almost to himself. No one ever has before. Admiral Grant smiled slightly. That's humanity's specialty, Ambassador. Doing the unexpected. After the Imperial ship departed, the Earth delegation returned home to a world celebrating its unexpected victory. People everywhere had watched the meeting broadcast from the lunar base. Hope replaced fear in the hearts of billions. Exactly 27 days later, a message arrived from the edge of the solar system. The Emperor had agreed to Earth's terms. With one addition, the Empire requested permission to establish a diplomatic outpost on Pluto for future communications. After careful consideration, Earth's leaders agreed, with strict limitations on the size and capabilities of the outpost. It would be carefully monitored at all times. 6 months after the failed invasion, Earth had changed profoundly. Nations that had fought each other for centuries now worked together. The technology captured from Imperial ships advanced human science by decades. And the knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe and could stand proud among the stars inspired a new age of exploration. Admiral Grant oversaw the construction of Earth's first true deep space vessels, built with a combination of human innovation and adapted Imperial technology. We won't be confined to our solar system forever, she told her engineers. But we'll explore the stars our way, not as conquerors, but as explorers. Dr. Winters led an international research team studying the biology of different alien species. Understanding diversity is our greatest strength, she often said. It's what saved us from the Empire, and it's what will guide us as we meet new civilizations. Sam's work took a different direction. He established Earth's first interstellar communication network, designed to reach out to those other worlds that had suffered under Imperial rule. We're building something the Empire never considered, he explained. A community of equals, sharing knowledge freely. The first contact from another non-Imperial civilization came just 9 months after the attempted invasion. They called themselves the Ardulians, a species that had hidden their true technological capabilities from the Empire for centuries. We watched with great interest as you defeated the Imperial fleet, their message said. Perhaps it is time for a new arrangement among the stars. Other contacts followed, some from worlds under Imperial control, sending secret messages of support. Others from independent civilizations that had avoided Imperial notice. All of them interested in the world that had done the impossible. 1 year to the day after the Empire's retreat, President Howard addressed the United Nations. Behind her stood representatives from 3 other civilizations, the first official galactic delegation to Earth, Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. She said, "We faced the greatest threat in our history, and we not only survived, we emerged stronger."